Intelligence analysts call them indicators, small changes in routine, unusual movements, patterns that don't quite fit. Individually, each indicator might mean nothing: equipment maintenance, training exercises, bureaucratic reshuffling. But when indicators cluster together, they tell a story. On February 21, 2026, American intelligence flagged a cluster of indicators coming from Venezuela that told a very specific story. Something was happening near the most strategic waters in the Western Hemisphere, and the United States had less than 72 hours to figure out what. Welcome to Global Warfare TV. This is the story of how intelligence analysts pieced together fragments of information to prevent a crisis in the Caribbean, and what the Venezuelan operation revealed about the changing nature of Western Hemisphere security. The first indicator appeared on January 12th. Satellite imagery over the Venezuelan naval base at Puerto Cabello showed unusual activity. 3 patrol vessels that had been in maintenance status for over 6 months were suddenly being prepared for sea. The imagery analyst who flagged the observation noted, "Accelerated return to operational status. Possible exercise preparation. Assess low priority." It was a reasonable assessment. Venezuela's Navy had conducted exercises before. Returning ships to service wasn't inherently threatening. The indicator was filed and forwarded. The second indicator came from Signals Intelligence on January 13th. Venezuelan naval communications, normally predictable in their patterns, showed a 340% increase in encrypted traffic between Puerto Cabello and Caracas. The content couldn't be decrypted. Venezuelan military communications use Chinese-provided encryption systems that American code breakers haven't fully compromised. But the volume increase was significant. Something was being coordinated at high levels. The analysts note, unusual SIGINT activity, possible command-level planning, recommend increased collection priority. The indicator was escalated. What would you have assessed at this point? Normal military activity, or something worth watching closely? Comment your answer below. The third indicator arrived on January 14th. Human intelligence from the source, codenamed Cardinal, the disillusioned Venezuelan naval officer who had been reporting since 2023, transmitted an urgent message. Admiral Hernandez departed Caracas for Puerto Cabello this morning, traveling with staff of 12. Assessment: major operation being planned. Cannot confirm objective. Admiral Hernandez commanded the Venezuelan Navy. His personal travel to the fleet's primary base meant something significant was in motion. The CIA's Venezuela desk upgraded the situation to developing concern. But the most critical indicator came from an unexpected source. Brazilian intelligence, maintaining surveillance of their northern border, had detected Venezuelan army units moving toward the coastline. This was unusual. The Venezuelan army typically operates inland. Their deployment to coastal areas suggested coordination with naval operations, something that hadn't been observed in over a decade. When the Brazilian report reached American analysts through intelligence-sharing channels, the indicators finally connected. 3 ships returning to service, massive increase in command-level communications, the Navy's top commander personally traveling to the fleet, Army units moving to the coast. Something was happening, something big. If you're following this analysis, hit that subscribe button. Global Warfare TV reveals how intelligence actually works, not the movie version, the real version. At 600 hours on January 15th, the Director of National Intelligence received a Priority 1 briefing. Venezuelan military forces were preparing a major operation. Probable target: the waters between Venezuela and the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. These 3 islands, located just 15 to 50 miles off the Venezuelan coast, belong to the Netherlands. They are functionally independent, handling their own affairs while maintaining Dutch sovereignty. They are also home to critical infrastructure. Curacao hosts one of the largest oil refineries in the Caribbean, processing Venezuelan crude that somehow continues to flow despite sanctions. Aruba contains a major regional airport that serves as a logistics hub for commercial and military traffic. And the waters between these islands and Venezuela are used by U.S. Navy vessels, transiting between the Atlantic and Pacific via the Panama Canal. Venezuelan control of these waters would give Caracas leverage over Dutch territory, Caribbean shipping, and American naval movements. The intelligence assessment was alarming. Venezuela appears to be preparing to establish a maritime exclusion zone in waters claimed by Dutch territories. This would represent a direct challenge to freedom of navigation and could trigger a military confrontation with NATO. Within hours, the White House Situation Room was activated. Support Global Warfare TV by hitting that thumbs up. Intelligence analysis doesn't get the attention it deserves, but it prevents wars. President Mitchell faced a complex decision matrix. If the intelligence was correct, Venezuela was about to challenge international waters near NATO territory. This could trigger Article 5 obligations, though the legal interpretation was murky. If America responded preemptively, it might deter Venezuelan action, but it might also provoke the very crisis it sought to prevent. If America waited, it might be caught reacting rather than shaping events. The president authorized 3 immediate actions. First, increase intelligence collection by all means available. He wanted confirmation of Venezuelan intentions before committing to military response. Second, alert the Dutch government to the developing situation. As the sovereign power over the ABC Islands, the Netherlands needed to be informed and consulted. Third, begin quiet military positioning. The USS Leyte Gulf, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser operating in the Atlantic, was ordered to proceed toward the Caribbean at best speed. Air Force tankers were deployed to staging bases in Colombia. American forces would be ready if needed, but the goal was to prevent conflict, not to fight one. The Dutch response was immediate. According to diplomatic communications, The Hague was deeply concerned. The ABC Islands had minimal defensive capability, a small Coast Guard contingent, and virtually no military forces. If Venezuela established an exclusion zone, the Dutch would be unable to challenge it directly. They requested American assistance. At 1400 hours on January 15th, President Mitchell called President Maduro directly. The conversation lasted 23 minutes. Its contents remain classified. But within 2 hours, Venezuelan naval activity at Puerto Cabello began to slow. What happened? What was said? According to sources familiar with the intelligence assessment, Mitchell delivered a blunt message. Any Venezuelan attempt to establish a maritime exclusion zone near the ABC Islands would be treated as a hostile act against American interests. The United States would respond with all necessary force to ensure freedom of navigation. Maduro was given a choice: stand down or face consequences. Venezuela's military couldn't survive. What would you have done in Maduro's position? Call the American bluff or accept the warning? Tell me in the comments. The Venezuelan operation, whatever it was intended to accomplish, never launched. On January 17th, satellite imagery showed the 3 patrol vessels that had been prepared for sea returning to maintenance status. Communications traffic between Puerto Cabello and Caracas dropped to normal levels. Army units near the coast redeployed inland. Whatever Venezuela had planned, they had decided not to execute. But the crisis revealed several critical lessons. First, Venezuelan military ambitions exceed their current capabilities. The operation, had it launched, would likely have failed. Venezuela's navy is poorly maintained. Their air force is barely functional. Their ability to sustain operations against even modest opposition is severely limited. But ambition can lead to miscalculation, and miscalculation can lead to war. Second, intelligence indicators work when analysts connect them. The indicators that preceded the Venezuelan operation were detected through routine collection. But they only became meaningful when someone recognized the pattern. This required human judgment. Algorithms can flag anomalies. Only analysts can understand their significance. Third, preemptive diplomacy can prevent crises. The phone call between Mitchell and Maduro likely prevented a confrontation that neither side wanted, but both might have stumbled into. Had the United States waited until Venezuelan forces were actually at sea, the options would have narrowed dramatically. Early warning created space for diplomacy. Fourth, the Caribbean is no longer a strategic backwater. For decades, American military planners focused on distant theaters while assuming the Western Hemisphere was secure. The Venezuelan operation, even though it didn't launch, demonstrated that threats can emerge close to home. Southern Command, long considered a secondary assignment, is becoming strategically relevant again. The aftermath of the January crisis continues to shape American policy. Intelligence collection against Venezuelan military activities has been permanently increased. Satellite coverage that had been reduced is now maintained at higher levels. Diplomatic engagement with Caribbean nations has intensified. The United States is working to shore up relationships that had atrophied during years of neglect. And military presence in the region has been enhanced. The guided missile destroyer USS Jason Dunham now conducts regular patrols in Caribbean waters, a deployment that would have been considered unnecessary 2 years ago. The ABC Islands themselves have received attention. The Dutch government has begun discussions about enhanced security cooperation with the United States. Details remain classified, but the conversations are happening. Aruba and Curaçao may never host American military bases, but they're no longer being ignored. Venezuela, for its part, has not abandoned its ambitions. According to ongoing intelligence reporting, planning continues at Venezuelan military headquarters. The partnership with Iran remains active. New equipment continues to arrive. The operation that was deterred in January may return in a different form. Next time, the indicators might not cluster so conveniently. Next time, the warning might come too late. This is the reality of modern intelligence work. It's not about knowing everything, it's about knowing enough in time to act. The analysts who connected the January indicators prevented a crisis that could have destabilized the Caribbean, damaged NATO alliance cohesion, and distracted American forces from higher priority theaters. Their names will never be public, their work will never be celebrated. But somewhere in a nondescript office building, intelligence professionals are watching the indicators right now, looking for patterns, connecting fragments, trying to see the next crisis before it emerges. The Caribbean remains contested water. Venezuela remains an adversary with ambitions beyond its capabilities. And the strategic waters between the ABC Islands and the South American coast remain a potential flashpoint. The January crisis was a warning. Whether it's the last warning depends on decisions that haven't been made yet. By Caracas, by Washington, by capitals around the world. The indicators are still coming. The question is whether we'll see them in time. Stay vigilant, stay informed. I'll see you in the next one.